All right, I want to thank you both for a very robust hour and a half, a fantastic debate. Really appreciate it.
Oh,
President Trump,
Jesus.
former Vice President Joe Biden, thank you to Belmont University for hosting us tonight. And most importantly, thank you to those watching tonight. Election Day is November 3rd. Don't forget to vote. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was some brain smoothing that we just witnessed there. Let me start the recap festivities there. Thank you all for sitting through that with us. For those who have sat with us the whole time, for those who are just joining in and coming on, thank you for that very much. This was a wild one, folks. This was a debate for. I mean, I won't necessarily say this was a wild debate, more so than I would say that this was a ridiculous debate. Like, it was just like fundamentally just like a ridiculous debate, start to finish. I don't even know like where to start or where to finish really, but I would say I don't even know if there was a winner or a loser I can call. I'd say Trump handled himself decently. I think Joe Biden has a lot to be desired in the sense that he missed a lot of opportunities to defend himself. I think most of Donald Trump's sort of like most of Donald Trump's sort of comebacks and his things, especially that tough hitting thing, and we'll get onto in a moment about immigration, were just head fakes. They were these things that didn't really make logical sense. They were just kind of trying to rile up Joe Biden because we all knew this would kind of work to some extent. Because that's the game we talked about as we were coming into the debate itself. We have an issue where Joe Biden's leading in the polls very well. Donald Trump is behind. Donald Trump has a lot coming against him, even though he's the incumbent, and usually elections favor incumbents. So we're trying to look and find out exactly what Trump's strategy is going to be coming into this. And what Trump's strategy was coming into this was just continue to lie and avoid facing any sort of accountability and truths during that lying, and try to deflect and distract and point to his other opponent. So you try to get distracted from the fact that he is simultaneously, and I've said this many times on Power Report before, but Donald Trump is simultaneously trying to be the strong, nothing can stop me, I'm going to own the hell out of the libs kind of politician, while also simultaneously being the candidate who's saying, look, they're doing all these things. I can't do anything. I'm so weak because these strong Democrats in the deep state that are all over everywhere are doing everything they can to counteract my administration. So that just ended up becoming a disaster. Joe Biden had one job, which was to kind of hold the line there and say that, kind of just stand his ground, continue leading, and not lose any ground to Donald Trump, to be able to attack him when he's being attacked, to not fall into the traps. And Joe Biden fell into a lot of traps because ultimately, I don't even know if Joe Biden could have avoided these, and I'll open it up to the panel for discussion on this. But my take is that the traps that Joe Biden fell in are the traps that he fell in because we picked Joe Biden as a candidate. Like, because the Democratic Party was able to kind of choose and coalesce around having a more moderate candidate who is for what the Democratic Party was for before Donald Trump was elected, that means that Joe Biden also has to apologize for all the things that Obama did, that we realized during the Trump administration. Wow, the Obama administration did some things that made it easier for the Trump administration to do worse things, especially in immigration. And Joe Biden wasn't able to say, oh, no, I'm not like that, or no, I would be different, because his best excuse was to say, oh, I was vice president then, but now I'll be president, and not agree with those same things. Like, it just seems like a ridiculous sort of place that Trump had to sort of debate from. But like, I understand it and I get it. Or like, that Biden had, sorry, it's a ridiculous place that Biden had to debate from, but Biden kind of made his bed there by being moderate. Okay, with that, since the panel is loaded and it's all going, what are your kind of y'all's introductory thoughts as we go into it? The floor is yours.
Well, I don't know if you want to like start at the beginning, but I mean, obviously started talking about COVID, and I mean, we literally got Trump up there talking about a cure. Like, he's talking about like a cure, and he might be immune for 4 months or the rest of his life. Like, like we're listening to somebody who's is this a damn liar, man? And it's just ridiculous. Like I don't even know. Like the dude is talking about we got a cure. Like
we're so far out from it.
Like are you kidding me? Like it should be over from there. Like the fact that you get to get on here, oh, we have a cure and I could be immune for 4 months for the rest of my life. Who knows? Like this is just like you're talking to a child. And that's where he started. He's talking about goggles. I never even heard him talk about goggles before.
Yeah.
And there was one thing. Also part of his lies in the COVID part. Biden mentioned how early on Trump said that and I remember specifically when that reporter asked Trump, "Do you take any responsibility?" He said no. And Biden mentioned that he's like, "Yeah, you said you take no responsibility," and Trump's like, "I take full responsibility." Like, come on, dude. Like, what are we doing here?
And then he blamed China right after. He said, "I take a full responsibility." He said, "Well, China's the one." I'm like, "What? You can't do that. You can't take full responsibility then blame somebody else. It's not taking full responsibility."
Like he would never take accountability for anything. Like not one single thing ever.
That's just not the game.
Yeah, and when we talk about immigration, actually in the crime stuff, I want to talk about accountability again. But
Caesar, what are your thoughts?
I thought this was a better debate than the first one. It looked like it started off in the format where I was kind of almost hoping for, and then I guess we just said F that and just let them go loose. I don't need to like muting for the first 10 minutes, but
if I could just interrupt you just to provide some clarity, because a lot of people were asking that like on Twitter and everything else, like, yo, what's up with the mute thing? I think the media, as tends to happen, just did like a really bad job at informing people what the situation was going to be. Because here's the situation. I mean, regardless, the context being that the first debate was a shit show. People weren't able to get in a word in edgewise. Mostly Trump was interrupting. So at the even thought of COVID restrictions or muting or changing the ability or freedom of any candidate to speak, Trump balked and said, "This is ridiculous. No way. The fact that you're changing the debate around the fact that I'm unable to be amenable to having an actual debate itself is ridiculous and far out the scope of what you should be doing. So I forfeit." So he just didn't do the second debate. And that's why, or the scheduled second debate. This should be the third debate that we're covering, but this is the second one, which, let's remember, has not really happened that often in American history, where like one of the presidents just decides to rage quit one of the debates, or the sitting president decides to rage quit the incumbent debate because of a pandemic that president had also exacerbated and made worse. So all that's going around. But to get where your point saying, Caesar, because now I'm going into a tangent, was that it was reported that there was going to be muting during this debate, that was going to be the compromise. I think that made it into a lot of the headlines in order to get it to be clicky and all that stuff. The same things about news that I've talked about hating in many of my videos. But the entire rules this time was going to be that there's going to be muting during the introduction of this debate. So during the opening statements. And, you know, to the extent that there are new topics being introduced, the idea is each candidate's first crack at that new topic is supposed to be uninterrupted. What happened, which was what was going to happen anyways, was that each candidate uses the new question as a time to say, "Hey, wait, I wasn't done responding to that last thing." And so they get extra time. So like, that's what was going on. I think a lot of people had like bad debate expectations as to how the mute button was going to go. But that's kind of was the deal. I'm sorry to derail you, Caesar. I'm just going to shut up now. But what else are actually your thoughts?
Yeah. I feel that.
See,
I don't really know what I was talking about.
No. I mean, I remember we were talking about like our feelings from the debate. Bam had just finished talking about like how he was
talking about the mics being muted and how that was whack.
Yeah, but I mean, like overall, I guess with this debate, I just thought that I didn't like that some of the questions I thought that were more impactful from the last debate weren't asked, such as when Bam brought up saying that I would have really loved him to bring up the about him leaving office because he's been kind of like iffy on that. I would have liked to hear him speak more about They didn't really go into much about the coronavirus thing again because that was I felt that was pretty important, and then how it spread to like 6 other people of the cabin and like people that work inside the White House. We didn't kind of really dive into that. He talks about this. He talked about being immune, like he's some superhuman or whatever and all that. But then he didn't talk about how other people got, he was the reason why other people got infected. Like there was never the moderator said, "Do you want to?" Have you apologize to the people that you were infected because of your negligence to being exposed to coronavirus? Because he was very negligent about the whole process in general. He was talking about, I have a mask on me. It's just on his pocket somewhere. Like, he was handshaking, and all of a sudden after he gets sick, he's elbowing people elbow to elbow. So I just think it's really funny on some of that stuff. It felt like he was kind of iffy on it. So but like I said, I think the debate was a lot better this time. It was nice hearing some of Joe Biden's answers, and I think I agree 1,000% what Dan said earlier. If you were sitting watching this debate and you're going, ugh, on some of the answers Joe Biden got, if you voted for Joe Biden, that's what you picked. That's what you picked. You knew this was the bed you made, because a lot of us knew this going in, and we talked about this even on this show, the early versions of Power Report. We talked about on this show on what's going to happen with Biden and what kind of ammo the Republican Party is going to bring up when it comes to Joe Biden. He's going to have to answer some really tough questions that honestly might put presidency at stake for him, depending on how he answers them. So we'll see what happens. I'm in a different place because to me, it's like no matter all the things that he's done, I'm like, it just can't be worse than what we have now. Look at this man. But other people in America don't see it that way. So I'm really interested to see what happens in November.
Dan, you're muted.
Sean, it's your turn.
My turn? Yeet.
Yes.
Wasn't there a plan for the post office to grant out like millions of masks that they gutted? Because that was another thing that was never talked about, because he's saying all of this stuff about we did all the best with coronavirus, we did all this stuff. Like you had a whole mandated, the post office had a whole press release ready to say, oh, we're giving each household a certain amount of masks, but it was gutted by the Trump administration because they're trying to get rid of the post office.
Yeah, there's definitely that. I think there was a whole ton of like rewriting of history with how Trump handled coronavirus. Because remember, the Woodward tapes that this round of Woodward tapes, because Woodward's been coming at those shit since the Nixon days. But this round of Woodward tapes was about how Trump knew about COVID-19 spreading at the earliest points at which not even the public knew, but when government agencies knew. So government agencies knew in like late December, early January. Elizabeth Warren was on the campaign trail talking about her master plan for fixing COVID. And people knew about these conditions back then during that time. And Trump's response, which was well documented now because the Woodward tapes, was to go, oh, okay, it looks like this crisis is happening. What can I do to avoid that? What can I do to not worry the American people? Not that I'm caring about them worried, because I'm sure not caring about them dying, but mostly because I'm cared about my poll numbers. And I was doing pretty great until this virus happened. So, yeah, it's like we went straight over the fact that the post office had a plan to send out masks. We went straight over the fact that Trump for sure told Woodward that he was downplaying COVID in order to not scare people. At the same time, he was saying that COVID was a hoax of some kind, that masks were not a big deal. The mask messaging was iffy back then. But the whole main point that you're getting at, Sean, I really agree with, is that Donald Trump did a lot of rewriting of history about his COVID response, and neither Joe Biden nor the moderator did a really good job of hitting back. So it's pretty safe to assume that the American public didn't really get and understands back from that. Bam, you got something to say?
Yeah, going back to the Woodward tapes, you could just tell, if you're not an idiot, you know what type of personality Trump has. I'm not going to say what I would call it in private, but he's on the Woodward tapes just act like, oh man, I know about this new thing and it's crazy. I'm going to tell you about it. And I think, and forget about this whole, I didn't want to panic people because he's a certified liar. I think that he thought it's easier to just politicize it. It's easier to do that because he already knows that the Democratic Party and people with common sense are going to listen to scientists. So he's like, I can't be in agreement with them. Like, I can't go and say, yeah, I agree with Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, like, or any of these other people. I have to be on the other side. So he just turned into a political thing and it flouted the rules for months and months. And now we're in the situation we are now. But when he gets asked about it, he like, what can you do to push him? He's just gonna lie and rewrite history and just say what like what can you do outside of saying, dude, you're lying? Like, and it can't be Biden saying that. It would have to be the moderator saying that's not what you actually said. And I don't think she's in the position to do that. He's just gonna lie about anything that makes him look bad. Dan's muted.
Audio man Dan.
I keep doing this. I was saying, Bam, you're 100% right. I keep muting myself because I'm drinking these seltzers and I don't want to like get the gulps up there. But like, yeah, I that's kind of the thing I've been talking about in chat as well with the folks watching this debate coverage live, which is awesome. We probably won't get to do this for a while, so thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it live. But that's a lot what I was saying in that chat was that I don't know how well or if at all, like, I don't know how well America's or Americans bullshit meter with Trump is. This is always a difficult conversation because at this point in the election, when we're talking about any of these debates, we're like October on. You haven't made your decision in October of this particular election cycle. I'm kind of, without insulting that person, because I'm trying not to vote shame here, it's hard for me to put myself in the mind of someone who has even access to all this information, even if they don't fully understand it. But if they have curiosity, they can go out and look and kind of figure out this information for themselves. I have a hard time believing who hasn't decided yet, but who still believes that Donald Trump might be a person to hear them out enough because they might be telling the truth. Like, in order to be that kind of person, you're just so removed from the political conversations that all of us are basing our knowledge off of that it's just really hard for us to analyze this, because I'm making all of these analyzations and kind of ideas about Joe Biden and Donald Trump based on all the stuff I know about politics. And I try to make that informative for the people who are watching. But for those out there who we're kind of looking at, like in Pennsylvania and Ohio and Arizona and Texas and Florida and all the swing states, what are they thinking right now? What are the independent voters thinking? What context about Trump do they have from before this debate that is working against him or working for him? I really don't know, because to even be in that mindset's a little crazy to me. I just don't. Yeah.
Yo, every person in America knows that Trump is a bullshitter. Unless you, like, there's a very small percentage of people that think that he's telling the truth. The other people know he's a lying sack of shit, but they're going to vote for him anyway. Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, he's going to get up there and say whatever, but they're just going to vote for him no matter what. But they know he's lying. Like, but a lot of people, especially Republicans, especially people that vote Republican, are single issue voters. Like, they're just voting on abortion, you know, or they're just they're just voting like, who's the one that's you know, the more racist one, like that. Like, that's what they're voting on. And I do want to get it, like, because I mean, I don't know if we're going in chronological order, but we can talk about immigration.
We're going in any order we want to, because it's just like we're taking the debate as it is.
So
I'm happy to talk about immigration. Go
yeah,
ahead,
because
Sean.
because also, Dan, you had some stuff you wanted to say about immigration too.
No, it's all good. Sean, what are you going to say?
I mean, I have a lot of notes about stuff in general. One thing was about with the climate change stuff. I mean, obviously we live here in California and it was completely on fire, and still parts of it are on fire. And Colorado is having its biggest fire in its entire history right now, over in a little bit west of Boulder right now. And they didn't I wish Biden would have gone on Trump about that and say, what are you managing about with climate change when the entire country is burning? Not just those two states, but a bunch of states around, which we have talked about a couple of times on Power Report. But it's very important within climate change, because those are the things that are drying out climates, that are doing things that cause fires, where the fire seasons are lasting longer. They're getting worse and worse every year. I mean, when we grew up, it was, you know, every couple of years it'd be a bad fire, but now it's every single year there's at least one or two major bad fires here. So that's something that should have been pointed out a little bit more.
I thought it was kind of an opportunity that Joe could have really went harder on when it came to the climate control or climate change and what's going on with the fires, because I mean that's the most self-evident thing today. I mean, even though the fires here in Southern California, the ash that we had here kind of died down. Just yesterday I was driving to LA and I was like, damn, it's like super gross still. So I don't know what he's talking about clean as it's ever been. I don't know where he gets to just say any statement he really gets like wants to say, and there's no factual evidence. He gets to throw numbers around like 100 trillion and all these numbers and say whatever you want, because what Bam says is true. A lot of people are single issue voters. They don't even care about any of that. Like they don't even care. Honestly, even if actually thinking about it, even if he did kind of bring up the fires, Trump would have said something about like these being blue states, and then our governors did this to our state. It was like he would have literally said it's our fault, like it's our fault that they're burning down and stuff like that. Even though I'm like, what the hell did I do? We're not like, all right, like I've literally never even been to Eureka in my life, but okay, I guess I'm the reason it's burning down. It's a big ass state.
We're not raking the leaves off the floor of the forest enough.
Well,
so
I'm sorry about a Prius.
That's federal stuff too. That's a lot of federal land that needs to be done up and cleaned up. So it's not like the states can do it. As much as I don't like Gavin Newsom, Newsom's like, that's federal land. I can't help that much. So can you give me help within that to help forest management if that's the thing you want to talk about within fires? So
yeah, Mr. Accountability likes to blame everybody else but himself for other issues. Likes to blame other states. He probably would say something like, "Oh, the red states aren't burning like that," so I don't even know. Like he gets more out of division out of the state. The more divided it becomes, this red versus blue damn thing we're pushing now through this since the Trump campaign, the red versus blue thing hardcore. That like wins him. Like the division wins him. Like if there's unity, then that's a problem for him. He can't have us, agreeing with other states and states agreeing with us. That's a problem for him. And the United States, that'd be a problem for him.
Yeah, I got so much to say there, but I want to kind of keep it moving a little bit. We're gonna get into. I guess this is my last thing about climate change. Like we're saying Trump should be the one coming to the rescue here. Not like you or Sean, people are saying that. Like people are saying, how did Trump to respond to this? Trump has federal land. He should be doing all this, that, and the other thing. Trump appointed to the Secretary of the Interior, all the people who are in charge of public lands, people who are tasked with, for lack of a better term, raping our public lands so that they can be extracted for oil, for natural gas, for fracking. So earthquakes can happen. So people's livelihoods can be destroyed for what? Energy dependency for oil while we're just in the middle of moving our economy off of that. Like it's ridiculous.